Hello, and welcome to week 3 of the Ability event. My name is Joseph Jones, Executive Director of the Harkin Institute, and I would like to thank you for joining us today. At the beginning of week 3, I should tell you that this week's focus is advancing disability rights in Black, Brown, and Indigenous communities. And today, we're going to have a disability interfaith session with Reverend Calvin Peterson, founder of Disability in Action. I'm very excited that you could join us today, and I hope that you'll be able to join us throughout the week and the coming weeks as we celebrate the 30th anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act. Programs and events will happen each day, and I hope you'll be able to tune in to enjoy some of those discussions and presentations. Have a great day.
All right, welcome to week 2 of Embracing the Difference. Welcome to week 2 of Embracing the Differences Globally, the Ability event. Every day this week, we'll be having discussion about the intersection of race and disability with speakers from around the U.S. Hello, my name is Samuel Bannerman. I'm a graduate of the Rehabilitation and Addiction Counseling Program at SCSU. I will be a facilitator for this event. I'm going to give you a quick and a brief description of my current environment. I'm wearing a green button-up polo shirt. I'm sitting at a workstation I have put together for work in my living room. To the right of me is my window. I have a plant by the window. I have a fan in the window right now blowing in some cool breeze. And to my left is the kitchen. So I have the stove, the sinks, and all that. Behind me, you will see the couch. And I also have a painting on the wall. Today, I am proud to introduce our Sunday interfaith speaker, Reverend Calvin Peterson. In 1968, he formed the Advanced Association for the Physical Handicapped, Inc., or some may refer to it as AAPH. And he is also the founder of the Atlanta-based organization Disable in Action, which he also started in 1986. So please join me in welcoming Reverend Calvin Peterson. And if you have any questions, please make sure to put them in a Q&A session. Thank you.
CEO and founder of Disabled in Action, Atlanta. He is a spiritual leader and social activist for the disability rights and a key figure in the independent living movement. He is author of Nothing is Impossible, which was performed in a play in 2018. This man has tirelessly served the disabled as an advocate and activist since 1986. Here is just a glimpse of the works of Reverend Calvin E. Peterson.
It's interesting how society can just outright exclude an entire population of people, especially those individuals that Christ looks at as being the least of these. And in my talk this morning, I would like to point out the devastating impact of this exclusion. And in doing so, I have to go back to my childhood days because I don't think that I don't think that my life is an isolated incident. I grew up in a poverty-stricken situation. My grandparents, they were very helpful in taking care of me. My mom, she had a very short life because she had to deal with the fact that society had placed her in a category of being responsible for a disabled child being born. Now, let me try to speak on that even further. Our society has a tendency to look upon parents as the guilty party that is responsible for the birth defect of a child. And I saw my mom struggling every day, trying to deal with that stigma that society had placed upon her. To the extent that it had a very detrimental impact on her, to the extent that she tried to commit suicide. In my presence, and I was only 5 or 6 years old. Basically because there weren't any services out here for a child that was born disabled. And keep in mind that this was back in 1950, 51, 52, 53. Society did not open the doors to a public education to disabled children, especially if they were African American, until 1954. And even then, there was a dehumanizing stigma attached to the criteria to even get into school, and the stigma was the child had to go through some psychological evaluation, and they had to be declared as mentally disturbed or mentally ill. Now, keep in mind that this stigma and this criteria was attached to the introduction of even being enrolled into public school. Now, also keep in mind that the one in public transportation that was totally accessible. There were no accessible buildings, there were no accessible streets. None of that existed. So all of this took a toll on my mom's mental and spiritual health. Until it became totally unbearable for her. So she tried to end my life until my grandmother stopped her. She actually tried to drown me in the bathtub. So all of these actions and all of these notions stem from, and it's exclusionary society, and for the last past 60 years, I am 72 now, but for the last 60 years I have been trying to, so to speak, open the doors of the church, trying to sensitize the church, trying to steer the church in the direction of an inclusive Christ. But that has been, and it's been a difficult task. On our website, we have outlined a proposal to the church of how to become more sensitized to this population of people. It's actually on our impact page, down at the very bottom of our impact page. It is an appeal to the church. I encourage everyone to go to our site, www.disabledinactionatlanta.org. This is a very historical site that was created by African Americans that are disabled. It gives the events of the past, present, and future activities of the disabled of a community. I urge people to think and act inclusively in everything that you do. Because if not, you are causing havoc to individuals' lives and individual future. It is imperative it is imperative that people thought processes has to change to what people that are poor and disabled. I have been fortunate enough to interact with people from all aspects of society. Governmental officials on a state, federal, and local level. Trying to attempted to push the issue of inclusion for poverty-stricken, disabled people and their parents and caregivers. In 1988, I was able to change a traditional historical structure in government for over 100 years. Public housing had not been accessible for the disabled kids. I was able to testify at the disagree housing hearing in 1988. From that testimony, I was able to get Congress to pass a mandate stating that all public housing had to be at least 5% handicap accessible. But now, before 1988, just think of all of the suffering and all of the discomfort that a person that was disabled in public housing had to go through this. and in somewhere in the 88 or in the book BRA, there's a statute there that says states or local government cannot impose a undue hardship on a person that was disabled. In 1968, there was an architectural barrier act passed by the United States Congress, but even though the statute was passed in every low-income area in this country, there were no curb cuts on sidewalks. If there were curb cuts, there were a curb cut on one end of the street, but not on the other. So I truly believe that there is a there's something spiritual going on in the heart and minds of our society in terms of opening the door to the concept of inclusion. But at the age of 72, I am hopeful. I am inspired. I am ecstatic and elated to have lived this long and to have lived a productive and active life. I am inspired and hopeful that before I die, I will see and experience an inclusive environment for all people that's disabled, especially the generation after me.
All right. Thank you, Reverend. Do we have any? All right, perfect. We have a question here. And this question is from Steve Anderson. And the question says, good morning, Reverend, and thank you for being here. I am a 57-year-old white man with cerebral palsy. I have a strong faith. However, I have always wondered why a large part of the religious communities, including my own, Catholic, don't see our community as being fully part of God's children, where all are welcome, but rather a burden to be pitied. And Reverend, please let me know if you need me to repeat the question. Thank you.
Hang on a minute while we get the Reverend's camera and microphone back on.
Sounds good.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Yes. Can you ask the question again, please?
Yes, I can. So the question is from Steve Anderson, and he is a 57-year-old white man with cerebral palsy, and he said that he has a strong faith. But however, he's always wondered why a large part of the religious community, including his own, he's Catholic, doesn't see, in his words, a large part of the religious community, including my own, don't see our community as being fully part of God's children, where all are welcome, but rather a burden to be pitied. And so he's wondering why the religious community does not see people with disability as part of God's children.
You know, that's a very interesting question. And I think it starts with the interpretation of the scriptures. Churches have misinterpreted scriptures that deal with disabled people. Case in point, in the Old Testament, Leviticus 21 and 18, it talks about how the high priest or no one to come into the temple that had any type of deformities or any type of disabilities. And I think that scripture has been internalized by churches of yesterday and today. But I also think that it has been internalized as an excuse for churches not to be inclusive or not look upon us as God's children, because I think that people that do not understand something, they just try to push it off to the side. So I hope that answers the person's question.
Thank you for that. I think that was a great answer as well. We have another question from Hannah. And this is the question. She said, "Hi, my name is Hannah. I am deaf-blind. I live in Minnesota. I recently moved to a new place. Where I live now, there are barriers for me to walk around. I call the city and now, uh, I call the city and no response back to me. What should I do?"
Uh, well, I, I think that Hannah should contact her local uh, governor's council on disability and ask them to help her in her situation.
And I also have a question for you. And my name is Samuel Bannerman. I am the current facilitator for this event. And my question is, so you had talked about what your childhood was like and the relationship between you and your mother. And so my follow-up question to that is, what is some advice you have for parents who might be experiencing something similar to what your mother may have experienced?
That is so interesting that you asked that question because on October the 18th at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we will be hosting a roundtable discussion for all parents that have disabled children.
Oh, perfect.
Sorry, this is the captioner coming in. Reverend Peterson, could you repeat that date, please?
That's October the 18th at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. There will be a roundtable discussion for parents that have children that are disabled, and the discussion is around the how does a parent deal with their disabled child in this corona virus and beyond. So that's going to be posted on our home page later on today.
All right, perfect.
So we are encouraging all parents to join in this discussion.
Nice. All right, thank you. We have one last question here, and the question says, do the church, particularly the Black church, have and continues to perpetuate the exclusion of the disabled children and parents? That's the first part of the question.
Yes, they do. And it is so unfortunate that this is still going on, and I'm hearing from different churches that they just don't know how to become inclusive. And, and I have spoken at theological institutions, and I have stayed over and over again in order for churches to become more inclusive. All they have to do is to become more Christ-like.
And another follow-up question of that then too is that, do you think that caregivers truly understand their jobs?
No, I don't think that caregivers truly understand their job, because a caregiver that takes on the task of taking care of another human being is to take on the same task as Christ has taken on. And that is to sustain life in the spirit of love. So for a caregiver to take care of another person, they cannot do it they cannot do it for a paycheck. They got to do it as a gift to others.
All right, let me check again to see if we have any more questions. Well, thank you so much, Reverend Peterson, for an amazing discussion. And I'd like to also thank our audience for joining us today for this event. And also tomorrow at 9 a.m. Central Standard Time, there is a Monday Ability X talk with founder and director of the National Black Disability Coalition, also known as the NBDC, Jane Dunham. I hope I said her last name right. So yes, tomorrow at 9 a.m. Central Time, there will be an Ability X talk as well. Make sure you join in. And thank you again today for showing up, for joining us. Reverend Calvin Peterson, thank you so much for taking the time, and thank you so much for your great response to the questions we have.
Yes, and also, let me say, Jane Dunham also, and for suggesting that I do this, and also the staff and all of the people at St. Cloud University for even doing this, and God bless you all very much.
Dr. Nav, is there any last minute words you'd like to share?
No, this has been an awesome conversation with us. And thank you so much, Reverend Peterson, for being here live with us this morning. And we look forward to all the conversations that we will be having this week. So thank you. And thank you to everyone for joining us today.
Yes.
Have a good day. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.